What's going on YouTube? Dorito here, and today I got my daughter's Tao Motor Jeep Go Kart, and this thing's been sitting for a little while. We've had this thing for about 6 years. It's been a great cart. We've never really had any issues with it whatsoever, although it doesn't get driven a whole bunch, but it does get driven. But it's sat, and we're getting it ready for the season. And you know, it is an older tank. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you guys how to remove the tank and put a new tank in there. It's real simple. You're just disconnecting the fuel line, and you're removing your rack, and you're removing your tank. It's only going to take you about 10 minutes. So it's going to take a 10mm bolt and a 13mm wrench and an 8mm bolt and a 10mm wrench to remove that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the camera up from a high view and also from a front view so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay guys, we're back. And so to get off the rack, you're going to need a 10mm socket, and I'm using a swivel socket because it's a little bit easier to get to things in the back there, and a 13mm wrench. And it's basically, you're just going to grab it up, knock it all loose there. Okay, one at a time, drop them in your tray. There we go, there's two. Okay, you might want to use an extension to be able to get around the seat there with these bolts, which is pretty easy. And you're just going to get your swivel in there. Make sure it's straight. It's a little bit longer, so it's a little bit more fun. But get your swivel on and get it loose. So that's 4 bolts there. Oop, that was a little fun there. Might need to use a little bit of leverage to your advantage at a certain point, because you see there, that one didn't want to play right. So, gotta get it on there. Okay. It's always got to be that one, right? Let's see if I can break it loose the other way. That's where the other wrenches come in. Sometimes you just got to make things work, right? If they're a little hard, you got to do them by hand. It is what it is. So get this off. Okay, once you got that, you take your rack off, set it aside. Then you go onto your gas tank. Make sure and put all your bolts up where you can find them, so then you don't have any issues down the road, okay? So now what you're going to do is you're going to take your 8mm wrench and your 8mm, or your 10mm wrench and your 8mm socket, and put that on your impact. Switch that around. You can use an extension if you like. Didn't have to use the swivels on that one. There's one. There's There's two. Now what you want to do before you lower it anymore is you want to make sure and disconnect your gas. Okay, so let me get over here to this side and disconnect my gas. Now there is going to be a little bit of a mess, so I'm going to wear some gloves. You want to disconnect the petcock from the fuel line, and I'll get on that right now. Okay, and the petcock's right here. You want to make sure and turn the fuel off, and then of course you're going to lose any excess that is in there. So, but if it's old fuel, what's it matter, right? Right. There we go. A little bit of fuel loss there. We're gonna get something to plug that up right now, but for the time being, we're just gonna set it right there. Okay, because we are gonna replace the fuel filter and fuel line on that as well. All right, so now that you got that disconnected, now keep in mind there is a little bit of old fuel in there, so I am just gonna pull the tank up and out. So you could have drained the fuel if you want, but I'll drain the fuel once I get it out. It's easier for me. Okay, one more. Oops. There we go. Voila. Fell there, but it is what it is. Now keep in mind there is some rubber grommets that go on there that kind of absorb a little bit of impact when it's going down the road. Not so much the impact, it keeps it from making a vibrating noise and stuff like that. So you want to hold on to those. They're going to be setting onto your tank. Okay, you want to remove those from your tank once you remove your old tank. Check and make sure, like I said, they got the rubber seals right here. You want to pull all those rubber seals. Okay, so, and as well too, as you guys can see, there's the petcock underneath. I'm going to leave that petcock on because I've already put a new petcock on that comes with the tank. All right. Okay, guys, we're back. Now we're on the downhill slide here when it comes to putting back on the tank. I did change the fuel line. I put a new fuel filter on there, and also I put the new petcock in as well. It's pretty self-explanatory when you put those in. You may need to adjust it and spin it around any direction once you set it into place. Okay, but I put my fuel line on there as well. So what you're going to do is you're going to want to make sure you get your 10mm bolt and you get your rubber grommet. It's very important. Your rubber grommet, it's very important you use that when you put your fuel tank in. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is make sure your petcock is to the front, because that's where your fuel line is, and then you're going to start your bolts out. Okay, and it may be a little bit of a pain in the butt to do the very beginning bolts, but it isn't going to be too bad. Okay, so you're going to want to put the bolt in. You're going to want to get that grommet on the side there. Okay, then you're going to want to put it right in like that. All right, so once you get that in, you're going to want to take your 8mm nut. You're going to want to just tighten it on there a little bit. Okay, so like I said, it may be a little difficult the first bolt or so, but you know, you'll get it and it won't be a problem. Okay, so we got one on there. Now what we'll do is we'll get the other side as well. Don't forget your rubber grommet, your 10mm bolt, or your 8mm bolt, I'm sorry. Put that in, slide in your rubber grommet. Now you want to keep that grommet as a spacer in between the bolt and the gas tank, okay? In between the frame and the gas tank right there. All right, so now that we got that on, we need to put a nut on there. And as you guys can see from here, I'm putting it on. So that's why we're using two cameras, so you can see what I'm doing underneath as well as on top. Okay, so we got that one on. We're gonna do the same thing on the other side, okay? So take that guy, put that guy in. Now this one might be a little bit more fun. Might need to have a little assistance from a tool like a screwdriver or something like that to hold it up there temporarily until you get your bolt in and get your grommet. Maybe do the other side just the same. It will hold because it's holding onto the rubber. Okay. put that guy in there. Do the same thing. Okay, now you want to bring it on down. Let's go ahead and set that right there. And get your bolt through. There's one. Last one coming in right there. Now once you get those all in, it will look like it's going to stick out a little bit on each side, and that's the way it is. That's what it's going to do. But what you want to do after that is you want to take your impact and your 8mm socket, and as well your 8mm wrench. Let's see here. I believe 10mm wrench, my fault. I'm sorry. You want to take your 10mm wrench and your 8mm impact socket. Go ahead, get it on there. Now snug it all up slowly, and just look at it like you're changing a tire. You want to tighten each one up a little bit, and then go on to it. Come back to it. You see what I'm saying? So get that tightened up. As you can see right here, I tightened up this one a little bit more. So I want to bring this back so it'll be evened up and I don't stretch one side of the tank from the other. Go ahead and tighten that down some. All right, there's fine. You can go ahead and snug them all up once you get them somewhat aligned. You will be good to go. Now keep in mind, you might need to bend the tabs a little bit to go ahead and even everything up. But in this case, just like the other one, it's already pretty much matched up. Okay. Okay, so we got our tank on now. Now that we got our tank on, while we're down there, we want to go ahead and connect our fuel line as well, okay? So we're going to take and grab our fuel line. Now that's going to be a little bit off there. So we want to take our, I believe it's a 14mm. It's 14mm. And loosen that up a little bit. So we can move the petcock around a little bit. So it'll be good to go for the fuel line, okay? So let's get that turned around right there. Loosen that up so we can snug it down more. Let's bring it around this way. There we go. Okay, so we got it right there. We want to connect our fuel line first, and then we'll snug that up. So get your clip on, set your clip, put your fuel filter in. Now you may need to cut your fuel line down if you're not using the original fuel line to make sure that it's feeding well, okay? So we got that there. That should be good to go. All right, that's good enough there. So now we're gonna slip that on. That's on all the way. Now you want to take your 13mm wrench and you want to just tighten up your petcock. Now you could take another wrench and put it underneath and use it for a cheater when you're tightening up things. Okay, so there we go. We're ready to now. I may need to shorten that line a little bit, but that's for another video on the carburetor. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to get on the rack, and that's real basic as well too. You guys can see goes back on how it came off, okay? So you're going to take your rack and set your rack on accordingly. And you're going to get your 4 bolts, which are 10 millimeter and 13 millimeter nut. You're going to get a couple of those and get it started. And remember, you can use your impact on this stuff, okay? So let's get those on first. I get 1 bolt in here. One nut. Put that on there. 2. Look at that nice new shiny gas cap and gas tank, huh? That'll make the kiddos happy to drive this. Now my son is big enough to drive this thing now too, so that we're really looking forward to. Okay. All right, so there we go here. Now it's just easier to go ahead and use your 13 millimeter wrench and your 10 millimeter wrench to go ahead and tighten up those bolts in the back, and that's exactly what we're going to do, okay? So let's get started up with that. Very simple. Got a ratcheting wrench here. There's one. Now these are lock nuts, so they have they're nylon lock nuts, so they're not going to just go on there with ease. It's going to take you a little time to tighten them on, but they're good and they hold. So that's the cool part. Not having to worry about anything like that coming loose. Okay, take the impact on the back ones. We're almost done here. All right, guys. Okay, guys, we're back. So that was just to show you guys how to remove the gas tank and put a new gas tank in. Also change your fuel filter as well too, and your fuel line if it's been setting for a while, because you don't want anything that's setting in the tank. You don't want any varnish, any stuff like that going down into that new fuel line, through that new fuel filter, and into that new carburetor, and have to do this all over again. So like I said, fuel tank, 4 bolts to get the tank off, 4 bolts to get the rack off, and you disconnect, you put a new petcock in there, and you're done. So I want to thank you guys for watching. We're going to get back to you guys in a little while, and we'll show you guys the carburetor video as well too. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching Luch Mop Garage. This is Dorito here. Peace.
Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to hit the bell. Thanks for watching. Bye.